The following is an address to my community. The Blerds. Black nerds. In recent times I've seen and heard dialogue about the growing pains of growing up a nerd in the black community. Okay, let me not say dialogue. It isn't a conversation, it's more like arguing. Like whodunit. I feel as though these no ideas are being exchanged, just semi-inflated narratives and buzzwords being thrown around. Nuance seems to escape the conversation, and I feel like my unique experience both being a nerd and an outsider maybe help bring the middle grounds. So, I decided to write about my experiences as a Blerd ranging from the time I was an adolescent till the end of college. I had a hard time with this subject. As someone who did get picked on for various reasons, mainly my skin, and as one who had the privilege of being athletic, I understand the dichotomy between the bully and the bullied. I wasn't a talker as a kid. I was very quiet. I had extreme anxiety and anger issues. It took becoming a YouTuber for me to open up, but I was very intuitive and insightful. I would hold conversations in my head about things I discovered because I was too nervous to speak my mind. How does this figure into the subject? Well, let me explain. I remember the groups I tried to be a part of, specifically the jocks, alt black kids, and the Blerds. I recall having conversations with myself as a child watching these groups interact with each other. None of it ever seemed pleasant. Really, anyone who was weird or went against the grain got shit on unless they were popular. I remember not hanging with the jocks because I didn't quite fit in. I was strong, fast, and could jump high but awkward. I loved wrestling and Sailor Moon. If I wasn't playing football, I was drawing or writing stories. I definitely did not fit in with the jocks. Not only that, a few of them jocks were bullies. Couldn't go a practice without comments on how black I was. Funny thing, I remember how WWE and WCW were popular with most of the jocks, but being into Sailor Moon wasn't a thing. I got comments on how Sailor Moon was for girls but never heard anything about it being weird or anime. No one was particularly anti-anime because no one knew what it was. Shortly after Dragon Ball and Pokemon blew up, everyone was on it. Literally everyone. Even the bullies. I remember Link battling one who repeatedly called me a faggot for having a purple Game Boy. Purple is my favorite color. It wasn't till high school did things change. What I distinctly remember is everyone splitting up. Get in where you fit in type deal. It was depressing because all of my friends ended up in gangs or selling. Again, anime was still popular, not with everyone, but it wasn't new or foreign. I would sometimes watch Toonami and play old Sega games at my old neighbor's apartment who was selling weed. I stopped after they got raided though. However, powering up before getting into a fist fight and immediately getting stomped into the ground was the type of behavior that did get ostracized. By this time, I never seen anyone picked on purely because of their interest in a cartoon, unless that person took fandom too far. Example, we playing a game. Football or basketball, doesn't matter which. We playing for bragging rights, street versus street. Hood versus hood. You decide to participate. No one forces you to either. For whatever reason you join in the fun. Middle of the game you get excited and treat the ball like it's a special beam cannon. Yes, this happened on many occasions in the 7th grade. Awkward kid named Jamal would participate, do some weird stuff, turn the ball over. Got to the point no one wanted him to play during gym and recess. He would cry, then snitch. Yes, he got ostracized a lot. There was this other kid. Let's just name him D. He was obsessed with werewolves and like dog monsters. He would draw them. We refer to them as fairies now. Well, this kid literally tried to do things with his dog. Inappropriate things. Yay, he got fucked with a lot after he admitted it to our little friend group, and Jamil decided to tell the whole school. Those were real-world examples. One extreme and one not so much. Back to high school. First week of high school I got bullied. Dude named Brooklyn tried to run my pockets in the lunchroom. I was by myself and he had a table to back him up. This forced me from ever going back in there. So I started to eat lunch in the hall. Shortly after there were Blerd groups I noticed. Some at the libraries downtown. First thing I realized when trying to fit in, Blerd groups were mad elitist and snobby. Like Ben Shapiro type snob. Your opinion doesn't matter because you don't read the manga snobby. You're not a real fan unless you can name all 7 types of kryptonite snobby. You cannot like GT because it's not canon snobby. Needless to say, I kept these guys at arm's length. We loved the same stuff. They introduced me to comic stores and Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, but many of them were bullies themselves. Now to my rock punk emo phase. A lot of the what we now call out black kids thought that somehow their interest in non-black culture made them better than the ghetto people. This was apparent from jump. They didn't bother to hide it because, well, they were raging hormonal teens rebelling against everything they perceived to be bad. counterculturalist to a fault. At the time I was really into Linkin Park, but I kinda stopped being a fan after the leader of the crew called me out for still listening to DMX and 50 Cent. Eminem was okay though. Wonder why? After that I went back to eating lunch by myself in the hallway. Till this day I remember it all because I remember trying to explain their behavior to some of these people I was desperately trying to befriend but was told I was weird. To their credit I was so beat up by colorism, I spent most my time reading about it trying to explain any and every social construct, even their anti-blackness, not really knowing how to effectively. So, me getting on a soapbox was weird when they are just trying to hang out at Hot Topic. I left that school and went to a tech high school that encouraged nerdom. I would later drop out of this school. My experience there however wasn't much different from my underprivileged hood high school because as we all know nerds can be ghetto and hood too. I would argue it was worse there because the super nerds, like myself, were very arrogant and obnoxious. It got to the point where playing and watching Yu-Gi-Oh games in the cafeteria became a turn-off for me and I went back to eating my lunch in the hall by myself again. Good ole hallway and silence to draw. I then went to an art college and by this time I had become a YouTuber and would not let my tongue be silenced about anything. The nerds including me at the school were obnoxious. Very. We all were now in a protected environment, so popping off at the mouth, there wasn't any repercussion and we took advantage of it. On campus there were non-nerds, typically the audio, video, or fashion student who really didn't like us and they made it known but most the times we were the ones starting the bullshit. Like hogging the lounge TV. Anytime anyone suggested anything other than a fighting game, where like 3 of the nerds knew all the frames and combos, running the gauntlet on everyone, nerds would get real offended. Be very condescending for wanting to try something new. We'd be loud in the computer labs while people were working. Hawking the homework tables without Yu-Gi-Oh magic card games. A lot of us were so devoid of interaction with the opposite sex, we were downright stalky. Overall we were jerks. Notice, I am saying we. By this time, we were adults refusing to be bullied but in many ways were flat-out pieces of shit. There's a difference between standing up for yourself and being an asshole. Most people avoided us because of that behavior and it just drew me back to high school and middle school. This was the same behavior wild in at the library, downtown in the streets, stinky obnoxious gamer tournaments and cons, being creepy to girls, gatekeeping. Looking down on people for not knowing everything about one manga comic anime. To put it lightly, I was around a lot of people who act like power scalers on YouTube and TikTok. People who get mad because you prefer the dub. This behavior made me a recluse for the most part but I never forgot it. So, now I'm on my soapbox again. First off, a lot of our bullies themselves had issues and they found soft targets, the weird kids, to be terrorists too. A lot of times we made ourselves targets with our erratic behaviors but some of it was unprovoked. Truth is though, no bully bullied us purely for being an anime kid. They saw us as weak and took advantage of that. It hurt us. Acknowledge it. Second, Blerds, our behavior for most of us dictated how people treated us. I saw it firsthand. It's true some of us was just minding our own business but it is also very true some of us were terrorists ourselves. Be honest with yourself. Could have been retaliation for a lot of shit but we still did it. Stop using our experience as a crutch. More times than not I hear us use that experience as a way to justify behavior. It's never to talk about our hurt. It's never to teach. It's always to use as weird emotional blackmailing chips. Black girls didn't like me. Is the most common. Yo, if you didn't look like Bow Wow or Lil Fizz, black girls at that time didn't like any of us really. It's not a good reason to justify your trash behavior towards them currently. Not only that, it is clear you have not healed or grown from that experience. Holding onto it like it's a crutch. You have the right to feel how you feel. You got hurt but just know your bullies moved on and are probably in prison. Last thought, in all of human history the person who thought different or acted different or went against the popular culture got ostracized. What we experienced was a cold part of humanity that will not go away as long as popular culture dominates society. Also, know this, somewhere in the world a kid is being picked on and fucked with for wanting to play football because of the data we now have on concussions. We've allowed access to knowledge to turn us to snobs. Yes, this happened. It happened while I was an art teacher at an elementary school. I had to intervene. The world has changed, please change with it. Love the author of Single Black and Nerdy. Jet Black.